gentlemen, welcome. I believe you have had some cheeses outside there. I can tell you cheese is good for you. And particularly in an evening like this one, when you expect to have a little bit of something, cheese does the magic. For those who are still taking the soup, make sure you have a bowl of soup. It has cream. This evening we are celebrating everything daily. You see, last month I happened to be in Moranga, and I met an old friend of mine, and he told me, "You guys in the dairy industry, you're so unsocial. You don't talk to each other. You don't talk." And I said, "What do you mean?" He told me, "Yes. You're always so absorbed in your work that you don't have an opportunity to talk to each other." Well, I said, "Yes. Show me another agricultural commodity whereby you plant every day, you weed every day, you harvest every day, and you consume every day. And when you do that, then I will tell you why you're so absorbed in our work." But well, as much as we are so absorbed in our work, we also like to have an evening and enjoy ourselves, don't we? Once in a while to call your relative, or your colleague, your counterpart, and maybe even your competitor, and probably pull a stool, and an avocado tree or a mango tree, or any other tree for argument's sake, and enjoy a little bit of something. I think it's good. And that way we'll be able to grow our industry. So ladies and gentlemen, my name is Peter Garuya. I work with Eastern and Southern Africa Dairy Association. And it's a pleasure to have you here this evening, that we decided to invite you to share with you the plans we have for the upcoming 11th African Dairy Conference and Exhibition. And we are extremely excited that you accepted our call and you turned up. Being a Friday, there's quite a lot of activities that happen on a Friday, but you opted to be here. So for that, we thank you very much. Before I invite the chairman of ESADA to make some brief remarks to welcome you, I want to share a short story, a very short story about ESADA and the reason why we're here. So I'll put a small short presentation to aid me in that story. So the 11th Dairy Conference and Exhibition. And I've told you I'm going to give you a very short story. It's about my life. Some decades ago, but before that, last week, I came across a photo. And I came across that photo. An exciting photo. Some 3 days ago. And all my memories when I was growing up came back to me. Growing up, having my father's cow, I could identify myself in this. And it was amazing that we had a cow. Out of the 30 cows we had, there's one specific one I used to try it completely. That says something. Then 2 weeks ago, I had gone to see my mother, and this is what I saw. His son, this boy is the son of the boy we used to hard with. He is doing something that's almost similar to what I was doing. He's the son of my friend that we used to hard with. But you can see a little bit of improvement now. He's not getting it directly. He's getting it from the heart. He's getting something little from the heart and he's linking. So what did they tell me? I got thinking about milk production, and if I used to suck a cow dry, and this guy also looks like he's not getting much, because as you can see there's nothing much that is flowing there. It tells us a lot about our production. We need to do something about our production. And it's one of the challenges that is facing the dairy industry. If several decades ago, we still have this thing happening, whereby our cows are not producing as much, there is a lot of improvement, I must say, but of course, we are not there. Then as I was coming down from our country, I passed a joint that I used to pass quite a lot, and I saw quite a lot of improvement in terms of the way they used to handle milk and the way they handle milk now, in terms of quality. But then again, there's a big challenge about the quality of our milk and how we can sustainably continue to stimulate that improvement of quality. As a dairy industry, we need to come up with strategies that continues to improve on our qualities. We have those technologies. And then again, as I was coming, I met that. It again reminded me of my youth. That's the way I used to take my milk to the market. I used to sell all of it there. But then again, now we have this. A bit of improvement in our market access. But then again, we have to do a lot more, because access of market is another challenge. That story is highlighting three critical issues that the African Dairy Conference tries to address: milk production, milk quality, and market access. And those three elements, they are so interlinked that if we are able to hack our technology, we'll be able to address most of those three challenges and be able to reap full benefits from the dairy industry. And that takes us to the 11th African Dairy Conference exhibition. The theme, retooling for posterity. This theme addresses the issue of us re-examining the strategies, our ways, our practices, to unlock this huge potential that lays in the dairy industry. How we need to sit down as an industry and re-examine our strategies, re-examine our ways, so that we can be able to deliver income to small-holder farmers who supply 80% of our milk. We can be able to deliver value to all the actors across the value chain. That is what the theme entails. And this event will be happening on 23rd to 25th of September at KICC. And of course, we believe that you'll be able to join us in addressing those three issues that I mentioned. We'll have quite a number of activities preceding the event. But in the actual days, we'll have a 3-day conference. And of course, the conference will address topical issues across the value chain, all the way from the farm to consumer. And also, we'll have an exhibition covering the entire dairy value chain. And as we are speaking today, we have over 120 companies from over 35 countries who have fully confirmed their participation in this event. and that is a huge improvement from last year. And we will have a lot of technologies that, if adopted, will significantly enhance the competitiveness of our industry. This conference has grown from 2005, when we had only 30 exhibitors, to this year when we're expecting not less than 130 companies. And it will be a very opportune event for you to make sure that you attend and participate fully in all the opportunities that are available. The conference, the exhibition, which again is open to the public at no charge. We also have quite a number of activities that will be happening during those 3 days. We have the field trips to various destinations, to the farms, to processing plants, and even to equipment suppliers, whereby you can be able to sample available technologies that you can be able to implement in your daily businesses. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those who have not signed in, of course, I would like to invite you to make sure that you sign in. You can visit the website, you can interact with it, and you can sign up to be part of that huge conference. And before I go to that, I mentioned to you about the need of the dairy industry to sit together around the table and solve their problems. I'm sure you're aware of the alignment that's happening in the UK and Europe in particular, the abolishing of production quotas, and it has brought a lot of issues in Europe, particularly Germany and the UK. They have decided now, because the milk has become too cheap, almost half the price of half a liter of almost half the price that of bottled water. They have decided to take the cows for a walk to the supermarket. So if you don't watch ourselves, if you don't sit down as an industry, we'll definitely face that kind of a challenge. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to leave you with that short clip. You might have seen it. This clip is as old as a week. And this is what is happening, and it's so serious. And if you can compare this with their pricing, that thing can as well happen here. So we need to sit down as an industry and sort out problems. So ladies and gentlemen, my short story ends there. And as I invite the chairman to make a few remarks, I would like to invite those of you who have not taken some soup, proceed to get some soup, and we should be on our way to start the service, as the ghost of one is just about to arrive. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I invite the chairman.
I want to ask those who are in the first daily conference, because the people have gone away, some have gone home on the PS, some retired, some moved to other countries. But who attended the first daily conference at Safaricom? If you can stand up. You can stand. Yeah? And they have been here every year for the last 11 years. Thank you very much. Those of you who have come for the first time, stay around. 20 years old, I'll ask you to stand also. You have done something. As for me, I joined the SADA for appears in the first legal year. When they first held the conference, actually the SADA and the conference, the SADA was formed during the conference. When it was legally registered, I completed the registration and started the institution those days. And up to now, I'm still the chairman. It's the only feather I'm holding in the dairy industry. I used to be so many things. You remember those days? When I was chairman of everything? This is the only one that I have I'm holding. But in case you want to know, I am still very active in the agricultural sector, including dairy, operating from my retirement home in Kericho. So when you're going to Kisumu or somewhere, you're invited to stop, call me and stop over at my place, we'll give you mushi and discuss one or two things there. But that's about me, just in case you wondered where I have been. I'm happy, Peter. I came as a young man from Nyahururu, and he's grown, don't you think? Have you seen such a nice presentation? Even in my days, I couldn't make a presentation that much, and he has really helped to keep together an institution like a SADA. And therefore, because we will have a short presentation on what's happening in the dairy industry, I will not talk about the dairy industry. What I will talk about is the role of us as individuals who are in the industry, supporting our organizations, including ESADA. ESADA would not be standing today if we didn't have not just the people who have asked to stand up, but those people who have dedicated themselves to participate in our activities and sponsor our activities. We are a non-profit private sector institution. In countries like Kenya, which is considered advanced, we don't get money from government. We are lucky a bit when we go to Rwanda. The government actually foots the bill when we go to Rwanda or Malawi or such other countries. But we still here. I think we still have a big role to play. I hope this year's conference, which is literally fully subscribed, will be like last year's. During last year's conference, people literally signed up to buy the machines and equipment they needed on the floor as they were walking around. And many, they will even be better exhibitors today on the side of technology. So I really want to urge you to continue supporting ESADA activities, particularly the conference, as it makes its rounds around Africa. We are still waiting for our guest of honor, and we've got to be clever a little bit. I think, Peter, you let the people start eating. But before you do that, we want to ask Helen.
My name is Helen, as Daktari said, and it's always a pleasure to be back here, as to address and share our learnings as Tetra Pak. I think I've been involved with the SADA from the word go, from the beginning. We support the organization a lot, we believe in it, okay? And we also believe in the dairy industry because as Tetra Pak, we believe that if the industry is growing, we will grow. Now, as Peter and Daktari alluded earlier, we always look at the dairy from a value chain perspective. It's always from the cow to the consumer, okay? Unfortunately, because of the time, I will only look at the last bit of it today. I will look at the consumer, which Peter said is actually challenging. So I'm here to prove him wrong. That there is a market in this country that we barely scratch the surface as an industry, okay? And that we should not even be thinking of exports at this point in time, because always an industry has to be homegrown. It has to be developed from within before you even think about the export market. So I hope that this presentation will inspire you. That's really the essence. I'm also aware that my competitors are here today. I hope you're fine, whatever you are. And this presentation will also support you and support your business case as well, okay? So without further ado, I will take you just 5 minutes. I will subject you to a bit of pain to just let you know who we are as Tetra Pak. That's the price you pay for my being here tonight, okay? So as Tetra Pak, we're part of a company called Tetra Laval, okay? And Tetra Laval is a Swedish company. It's actually privately owned. It's a family business. So there's hope in family businesses going regional. And I think we've seen that today. Brookside is going Pan-African, okay? So this is also just a bit of a challenge to African companies that we now have to stop. So you will see throughout my presentation, I will not be referring to Kenya. I will be referring to the region. Because today, that's how we have to look at things from a market point of view. Okay, even though I say we barely scratch the surface in Kenya. So we have Tetra Laval has Delaval, Sidel, and Tetra Pak. Those are the two founders of the company. The Mzee on the left is Ruben Rousing. He actually founded Tetra Pak. And Gustav is actually the one who invented the milk separator. And the two of them came together and formed the company. And that's the technology that we have today within the organization. So at Tetra Pak, we're really into processing and packaging of food, okay? And then today, we're part of what we call the Greater Middle East, okay? And those are the markets that we cover. So today, the information we'll share, we're picking a lot from the region that we cover today because there's a lot of similarities. If you look at Pakistan, which is a very big milk-producing country and a big market as well, there's a lot of similarities between Pakistan and us. For one, they drink a lot of their milk in tea. They put it in tea. And that's what we do as well here in Kenya. Okay, and then you're here coming home to East Africa. We're actually going to be 60 years next year. Okay? I think we deserve a clap, don't you think? And Tetra Pak is really part of the industry, part and parcel of the history of dairy in Kenya. Okay, obviously some of you may have had some negative experiences in the past, but today the company is more forward-looking and we're growing, and we really believe that the future is actually in this region and in the rest of Africa. So these are the markets that we cover today out of Nairobi. Okay, so we have Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Ethiopia, and we have structured our business accordingly. So we have dedicated resources and dedicated people looking after these markets. Okay. And then, of course, we also have a converting factory. So you don't need to import paper. We support the local industry, of course. Okay? And we've been here for 30 years. I'll not go into the details. And then now, this is where I start my presentation. And I want to start my presentation by looking at the big picture, because I truly believe we are a very conservative industry. And today, we're not interrogating the numbers or the data or the macroeconomic trends and indicators and how that impacts our business today. And I've just selected a few. These are the ones that we track today as Tetra Pak, and we look at it in terms of how does it impact the whole business, how does it impact our future growth, and how does it impact our investment as a company. Okay? So these are the macroeconomic indicators today that we believe is going to drive growth and consumption in the industry. Okay? So if you look at the first three, I think it's rather obvious. You hear about it in the media today. We know that the population is growing. Today, it's the the countries that I shared with you. We have about 300, that's the estimate, 300 million people. It's estimated this is going to grow to 400 million people. That's a very important figure to you as an industry. In terms of, this is a market, this is your future market. And the other thing, remember, 50% of these people are below the age of 15 years. Okay? So you're looking at consumers today, and you're looking at an opportunity to grow with these consumers tomorrow. Okay? So that's also a very important factor that you need to take into consideration. 70% is below the age of 30. This is today the answer that Africa is looking at. And if we don't take advantage of this in the next 10 to 20 years, then we will have lost our opportunity as a nation. Okay? Why is Europe declining today? We know they have an aging population. And when the population is aging, it comes with complexities. They don't take the whole milk the way we know it. It has to be with fortified, with omega, and so many other things. Okay? So these are really the things that we need to look at. And then, of course, a growing middle class. You can feel it today when you're out and about in Nairobi. When you go to a rural area, if you go today to your rural areas, you can see those small centers that used to be there, how they've grown, because there's money in the pockets of the consumers. Okay, so the middle class is growing. Now, you must remember it is the middle class that is the consuming class. These are the people who will consume your products. It is never the rich. Okay, it's always the middle class. Okay, that really sustains an economy. And then, if you look at the second row, so what I mean by the first three items is, of course, this presents an opportunity for packaged goods. It means as an industry we have to innovate. Okay? As an industry, we have to change the consumer habits. If we continue giving our children unprocessed milk, do you expect them to take processed milk tomorrow when they grow up? When they're mothers, when they have children? So things like school milk programs are very important for the industry. Or things like just focusing, having products that are targeting children are very important for the industry. Because what you're doing is you're instilling a habit of drinking milk. And today, most of us in this room that drink milk are beneficiaries of the Nyayo School Milk Program. And therefore, we do the same to our children because we know the benefits of milk, okay? And then the second row, I'm talking about industrialization. That you can feel it, you can see it. You can see it today in Kenya, what's happening. I'm talking about urbanization. More and more people, it's estimated in the next 10 years, 50% of the population will be living in the urban centers, okay? This is really critical because what does that mean? It means these consumers will be demanding for convenience. It means these consumers will want ready to eat, ready to cook, if you go to places like Eastlands, I don't know how many of you go to Eastlands today. Upstairs you have people living upstairs. Downstairs is a fully fledged market, ready to cook sukuma wiki, ready to fry githeri, ready to eat ugali. Everything is packaged. They're not branded, but it's in the polythene. That already tells you something, that the element of convenience is starting to kick in because of urbanization. So these are things that we need to take to look into. And then, of course, what it also means is changing lifestyle. More and more people are eating out. People want to go to the supermarket. Going out to the supermarket is very aspirational. They want to see what is new. I always use the example that people in Eastlands and people in Karen and Muthaiga, if you look at the youth, they buy exactly the same products. The difference is the ones in Eastlands, they buy second-hand. The ones in Muthaiga and Karen, they buy them new. But you will find they're just as trendy as everybody else because they have the same, the internet, the mobile phone, the TV, they have access to everything that everybody has. So you need to think about that. So don't look down on the people in the slums. You will be amazed at how much they actually know, okay? And then knowledge, of course, I've talked about the phones and the internet. It means they have access to what's happening and what is new. And then the last one, when you talk about resources, when you talk about regulation, when you talk about the regional integration, the EAC, what does that mean to us? What impact that has to us? This is an area that I want to challenge the industry. And the issues here, the issue of food safety and quality, which Peter talked about earlier, is very critical. And normally when we talk about regulation, people think it is the responsibility of the government. Actually, you're wrong. It is a combined responsibility. The industry, first and foremost, must self-regulate. You have to start by regulating yourselves. You have to start by setting the standards. And multinationals are coming. And multinationals will demand the standards. And they will push that everybody must conform to those standards. So we need to already start to establish these standards. We know that today this is an area that we're doing badly. We're very quick to talk about going into the export market. Are we meeting the threshold in terms of quality and the requirements for the export market? Because remember, you have products coming from the Middle East. If you go to a shelf in Tanzania today, you will find products from South Africa through SADC. You'll also find products from the Middle East. Consumers will be evaluating your products, on comparing you with those products that are coming from outside the country. So this is an area, and as Tetra Pak, we're committed to sit with the industry and we really address today. If you remember the issue of melanine crisis, and I'll talk about it more later, in China, it affected the whole industry. The food, today, if there's one incident of food contamination, the whole industry will collapse. Isn't that true? It will not just affect one person. Because what consumers do is they stay back. They say, milk must be a problem. So they become very suspicious and they stay away. So we really have to watch on this. Okay? So I've dwelt on that because I thought it was a very important slide for us to have a look at. Then something that is very positive for you, you're playing in the right industry. Okay? 40%. Today consumers are spending 40%. When you hear share of wallet, it means 40% of that money is actually going into food and non-alcoholic beverages. Okay? You can see that the one for Kenya is still very high. So we're in a good industry. It means there's money for us to make. We just need to determine how well we're actually going to do that. Obviously, we also know that it is still a very traditional environment. 70% of the products are being sold through the traditional trade. Now, it really depends on how you look at it. I think from a government policy point of view, this is where you create a lot of employment in terms of setting up distribution, in terms of establishing traceability, mapping. There's so much that can be done. And the 70% consumers that are below the age of 30 that I talked about, this is an area that we can actually exploit, okay? And then, of course, we know the power of mobile money. This is changing Kenya today, and we know that Kenya is ahead, okay? Now, when it comes to milk, I know when we talk about dairy, we always just think about the basic white milk. But I just wanted to let you know that what we do as Tetra Pak, over the years, we've worked with different stakeholders to come up with different products and different definitions for the dairy products. And that is what you're looking at today. There's the basic white milk. There's what we call the other liquid dairy products. That is the list of products that you have today. That is what you can do. So today, you can actually set up a dairy, 5,000 liters or 10,000 liters, and you pick on one of those value-added products, and the margins are amazing. Okay, instead of all of us running into the basic white milk. There's so much. If you look at cheese, if I may use Brown's cheese, for example, very, very good, or Happy Cup, those are very good products in the market today, okay? And the money is good. We just need to make sure that we're getting more people to consume that. And then, of course, we also have what we call other dairy alternatives. Soy milk, for the people who are lactose intolerant, non-dairy cream, rice milk. So there's a lot of opportunities for us. I think we tend to narrow our thinking quite a bit and just look at just milk only. Everyone that's going into dairy, I just want to do milk. Your pouch, that's it. Or now there's something else. There's a dispenser. Everybody wants to get into the dispenser. But there's actually so much you can do. Okay? Today, this segment of other liquid dairy products is huge. I mean, it's the fastest growing. It is growing faster than the white milk. And I can share the numbers with you later on, okay? Now, so in the region where we are, if you see this slide, you can see dairy is really big for us, okay? Of course, this includes Pakistan, so that's why you're looking at 39 million liters. But this is still, and I didn't compare notes with Peter, okay? But this is still today what you see in Kenya. And this is a picture that we actually took somewhere in central Kenya. This is the reality today. This is what we have in Kenya today. Okay? I'm not really criticizing, but I think it's up to you to decide where do you draw the most value as an industry and where do you want to go as an industry. I think that's really a decision that sits with all of us. Okay? But today, this we know is really the king. This is the king today. Okay? Now, so I talked about milk today all over the world is being subjected to increasing regulations around the world. Okay? But as I said, as an industry, as a country, we really need to look at, if I may use the example of tobacco, the tobacco industry. The tobacco companies knew that the legislation was going, they anticipated the legislation, and they prepared themselves. They self-regulated. You as the dairy industry, you have to prepare yourself because it's coming. The minute this market, you have 3 big multinationals, the pressure will come for us to really put in place. I think today there's a bit of carelessness. You have products in the markets, ESL, is it UHT, is it extended shelf life? What does it mean? I think I challenge the dairy board. I think we really need to guide the industry in terms of labeling and in terms of legislation. And I think everybody must be subjected to the same playing field. Okay? Everyone must conform. When we talk about UHT, what is it? What is whole milk? What percent is it? Skimmed milk, all that. Okay? So I'll not belabor the point, and then I said, of course, cares are not local, they're everywhere. These are some of the things we've experienced in the past. Now, just to demonstrate a point that there is an opportunity in the dairy industry, I've decided to take one segment of the market today and just demonstrate to you why it's very important to interrogate the market. We're calling this market deeper in the pyramid. We're not saying bottom of the pyramid, and I'll show you why. Okay? Now, what we did as Tetra Pak is we said, how far into the pyramid can our products actually go? So you always have the top of the pyramid, that is the red one. Then the middle one is what we're calling the deeper in the pyramid. These are consumers that live on between $2 and $8 a day. And then the bottom of the pyramid is really the subsistence economy. They live on $2 a day. But the reason why we did that is because we know that today, as the African economies evolve, these consumers in the middle of the pyramid will be your top of the pyramid consumers tomorrow. So even if they're buying your brands once a week, okay? Just be knowing that tomorrow you will have that consumer. Okay, and you can see where milk is. Milk is actually at the bottom. Compare milk with airtime, or salted snacks, or sweets, okay? And here I'm referring to packaged milk. Of course, they're drinking milk, but they're drinking unpackaged and unprocessed milk. So we're still lagging behind. But guess who's dominating that segment? Look at the brands that are dominating that segment. The big brands. You have the multinational brands. You have Nestle, you have Unilever, you have all the brands. These are the people who live in the slums, and these are the brands they're buying. And one of the things we discovered, and I'll come to this later on, is that these people, they're so scared of getting sick. They cannot afford to be ill. Their biggest threat is illness, and therefore they buy trusted brands. That's why they buy these brands that you see here. So if you go to Kibera, if you go to these other places, even for toothpaste, you know what they do? They go with a brush, and then the toothpaste is dispensed from the tube onto the brush. They go home, brush their teeth, and it's Colgate, it's Aquafresh. So they know the brands, except they can't afford to buy the whole tube, so it's actually dispensed for them onto the brush. Okay, very, very interesting. So I think I talked about that already, so that I don't spend so much time. So today, this is really what characterizes this segment of the market. We know that affordability is a key barrier. Inefficiency, it's an unsafe environment. Okay, security is a big threat for them. But we also know this is what these people aspire. This is their future. They're very optimistic. And if you go, I don't know how much time we spend in the slums, because now we do in our job, the energy, even the music, the beat, it's really amazing. These people are so passionate, very energetic, they work so hard, okay, because they're always looking forward to a better tomorrow. And then they place their hope in children. So if they see milk that is, and we tried this, we did an exercise with one of our customers, 200 ml milk sold in the slums, they bought. And when we asked them why they were buying, they said for the children. So they give priority to the children, okay? And then of course they have very high aspirations, as I've talked about. Okay, of course, inconsistency of income, okay, we know that. Daily availability of income, price is a key factor, and of course the low daily expenditure. And then of course, daily money availability defines their consumption, risk avoidance, daily shopping, food and beverage are the main expenditures, as I've told you earlier. So I'll just run through this just so that you can see why. And then of course, inefficiency of infrastructure. Water is a big problem to these people. They don't have water. So if you're going to sell to them something that is in a powder form, which water do you expect them to use, really? Sell for them something that is ready to drink, that is ready to use. I'm just saying these are areas, this is how we can innovate this segment of the market, by being very creative and understanding them and getting into their lifestyle, okay? And then of course, irregularity of energy. They rarely have electricity, that's why they tap into it, they steal, okay? And then of course, bathrooms and toilets is a problem. No differences between weekdays, and for them it's work 24/7, Monday to Sunday, okay? Mornings is typically the busiest day for them. And then their day starts very early, from 4 to 5 a.m., feed their family, and then they walk to industrial area. Okay, I'll run through this. And then of course, traditional store, I've talked about, they give them credits, they know the shopkeeper, it's conveniently located, they offer home delivery. And then of course, the environment is unsafe. Okay, they live in a very, security is a big problem. Animals such as rats and rodents. So if you're going to distribute in this area, these are some of the things that you need to take into consideration. Where do they store the products? Okay, because of the animals. Pests, germs, diseases, houses are not isolated from dust. So really, these are some of the things. I think it's all repeated. These people cannot afford medical expenses. I want to emphasize this point. Diseases are measured in downtime. For them, especially for the provider of the income, who is mostly the husband. When he falls sick, it's a disaster for them, because it means no food for the day. Okay, so these are things that we need to factor in. And then they think they will live a better life than their parents, that's why they invest in their children. And kids are very important for them. And of course, children represent hope for a better tomorrow. Okay, and education is very important for these people. They'll do anything to educate their children. Okay. We've talked about that. Technology, look at that, okay? The phone, the mobile phone, compare these people, the VIP and the top of the pyramid consumer, it's exactly the same. This is what I was saying earlier. So because they know technology opens doors for them. It gives them the light, okay? And then, of course, modern trade, they go to the supermarket as an outing. If you go to some of the supermarkets on Gong Road over the weekends, you observe, you will see a lot of people from the slums. It's an outing for them after church. The lighting, the products. And that's where they start to see, I would like to have a brand like this in my house, except I need it at a price I can afford at a shop near my house, okay? So some of the key takeaways, just in concluding this presentation. A good fact base is a very good starting point. This is an area where we score very poorly as an industry, okay? I don't know, I think the guest of honor is here, maybe I wait. Buenos dias, we already started. We're actually at the end of the presentation. So key takeaways is a good fact base is a very good starting point. And I think I throw this challenge to all of us in the industry. We don't have the data. We need to have credible data because you need to know this is my base and this is where I want to go. So when we say, and I don't know whether Mr. Maina is here, when we say that we are producing 5 billion liters of milk annually, please tell us how many cows, what's the yield per cow? We need to have these statistics because all the investments will be based on this. And I think we're not doing very well as an industry. We need to know how many outlets out there, how many dukas and kiosks can potentially sell packaged milk and where are they? These are jobs that we need to give the youth. These are jobs. We just need to give them mobile technology. They go out there, do the mapping, and they sell the data. So there's a lot of opportunities in the industry. Then, of course, we need to have a long-term approach. We must document everything that we're doing in the industry, okay? All the things that we're doing. Of course, it has to be, as I said, it has to be a value chain approach, okay? We may have too much milk and there's no market, or we may have the market but there's no milk. So how do we actually have an integrated approach for the industry? Building the brands is so important. You cannot commoditize the industry. You have to develop your brands, okay? You must have your brands and you build your brands. And then partnerships. Obviously, we cannot work in isolation. We have to work together to address the industry issues. Partnerships, I mean, global knowledge is adaptable, like I've told you, but at the end of the day, we need to have the local knowledge. We need to understand the consumers locally. I just want to share with you, just as a parting shot, some of the products that have been done around the world. This is a product from Nigeria. I think most of us have grown up with, the powder custard. The custard in powder form. We buy it, we take it home, put milk, we mix it, and we add it on cake or banana. It's nice, isn't it? What a customer has done in Nigeria is they've actually packaged this. And the kids, it's gone a step further. It's playing a different role. It's a snack. So they actually buy it, take it to school, and during break time, they eat it. This is in 200 ml. So that's innovative because what they did, they noticed in the streets that these kids were actually buying and licking the powder. So they saw that's a business opportunity. How about we pack that? Okay, so again, just going out and observing. Another product which is not here, which we developed in Sudan, is sweetened milk. Because one of the things we noticed is the Sudanese, they add sugar in the milk and then chill it and they drink it. And the customers thought, why don't we just mix the sugar in the milk? And convenience, remember the convenience I talked about, and make it convenient for them, ready to drink. Today, that's the biggest selling product, is sweetened milk. Okay, I know Daktari and the rest of the people might be knowing. And then in Pakistan, it's very interesting. Pakistan has a product called a tea creamer. Okay, now you remember Pakistan is the leading producer of milk in the world. Okay, but of course most of it is consumed loose. Okay, and what the industry players discovered was UHT milk was too expensive. So what they actually do is they mix milk with vegetable oil, and it is only used for making tea, for adding it to tea and coffee. Okay, there's a business idea. Today, the first customer was a fertilizer producer called Angro Foods. And when we sold this idea to them, they sold on to it. Today, they do like 2 to 3 billion liters a year. Huge, huge business. So we have ideas around us. I just want to tell Peter that the market is there in Kenya. We just need to be a little bit more creative. This is another product from China. They sell 4 billion units of this. I know in China, everything is in the billions. But again, I'm really more concerned about the creativity and the innovation around it. Okay? This is focusing on the children. Look at the ingredients. It's just water, whole milk, condensed milk, sugar. Very, very basic. So it's actually positioned for kids as a refreshment. So it actually sits in the same segment as Coca-Cola, for example, or as a carbonated soft drinks. They do billions and billions of this product. Okay? So there's so much that we can do as an industry. Don't just think about basic white milk. This is a product in flavored milk in Indonesia, 90 ml for children, again, positioned as a snack. Okay? Very, very good product. Now, just focus on the first part. In Egypt, cheese. You know, a lot of the consumers in the Greater Middle East, they eat milk instead of drinking, so they eat cheese a lot. And now we're packaging these products in 65 ml, 70 ml, 50 ml, and they eat it, feta cheese. You know, where's Browns and Happy Cow? Feta cheese, soft cheese. You apply it, and we can actually create that consumption here. We can actually make the consumers, we just need to educate them, and they'll be able to do that, okay? So, at the end of the day, I just want to tell you as an industry, people just want to know how fast you can run. Don't make any more excuses. The opportunities are there in this country, and the market is there. I think we need to challenge each other more, and we need to establish, as I say, set the rules, standards, and quality standards, okay? So thank you very much. I think that's the end of it.
When we want to deliver a message, like the message that has been delivered by Helen, we look for the best among us to deliver the message. Instead of writing it in the chairman's speech, and then the chairman mixes it up and messes it up. So I'm left out. My job is just to call clever people to come and speak. So normally, before budget is read, when the treasury is doing consultations, we normally hire tax experts to look at proposals that are going to be in the budget in as far as taxation is concerned. That is normally the local dairy industry, the Kenya Dairy Producers Association. And because the budget has already been read, somebody has asked how it affects the dairy industry. And because you don't sit in cabinet, but you do sit, you can hear some of the things of how it affects us, and if we need interventions, you can intervene for us. Want to see us? We have an expert from KPMG. Where I want to welcome you. Come, another smart young man. Come. Your presentation is being prepared. Is it ready? Yeah, that's about the only presentation we'll make. Then we will get our guest of honor to speak, and then after that we'll eat and drink milk. you took the wine before. This is the time for milk. Yeah, the minister couldn't come early. You're having wine there. Now he's come for milk, and we're in business. Come. Oh. They didn't tell me his name, so I'm asking you his name. This young man is called Robert, and he's pretty smart. He's going to tell us about taxation. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that introduction. Now, I think it was, let me first of all say, I really liked what Helen has said. I've always thought that there was not enough market, but clearly there is certainly a lot that needs to be fulfilled. Now, my name is Robert Oriro. I'm a senior tax manager at KPMG, and I'll be taking you through the provisions of the Finance Bill 2015. Now, as the chairman has said, every year you engage professionals to talk to you about tax, or to look at tax and what can be done. But the thing is, if you look at the last 3 or 4 budgets, there's not really been any proposals that directly affect the dairy sector. And in fact, one of my questions at the end of this presentation will be, what can you do more in order to see more of your proposals come through? Now, I happen to sit on the Institute of Certified Public Accountants public work stream, where we engage government in terms of policy. And one of the things that I have noted is that we've not really had any proposals from the dairy sector, and perhaps this is something that we need to change going forward. Now, Mr. Garea talked about cows in the supermarket in the UK. And in fact, one of the things that I also noted is that there was some protests where farmers were blockading roads. And the reason is because I think 3 liters of milk is going for something like 89 pence, which is roughly about 89 shillings, or there about 100 shillings, for 3 liters of milk. Now, I don't know how much a liter of milk goes for, possibly about 45, no, well, about 90 shillings in Kenya. But clearly you can see what the problems are there. And in fact, I also saw this farmer who was asked, he won the lottery, and he was asked, so what are you going to, congratulations for having won the lottery, what are you going to do? And he says, I'm going to continue farming until the money runs out. So I'm not sure whether there is a lot of money in farming, but these are some of the things that you come across. Now, in terms of the presentation, it's going to be very quick because, like I've said, over the last 3 or so years, we've not seen any real tax proposals that affect you as a sector. But perhaps some of your other investment areas might be affected, and that's what we'll look at. But before I do that, just some of the clients who we deal with from a dairy sector perspective, and in particular, there is that one there, Sasini. One of the things I've noticed is that they have a very ambitious project around the dairy sector, and some of you might be aware of that. Now, what we're seeing with this Sasini project is that it's going to transform the dairy sector, and I'm also aware some of the projects, some people from Israel, I think, they're running a similar project. And I think it will definitely be something worth looking out for, and particularly engaging government to see how government can support you as a sector. Now, in terms of the various proposals, like I said, dairy sector, no proposals. But some of the things that I think that might affect you include the capital gains tax. And the thing about it is that if you sold land which was more than less than 100 acres, then you need not pay capital gains tax. But now that threshold has been reduced to 50 acres. And now what they're saying is, if you do sell land, and particularly because of this restructuring, and we're also talking about the minimum acreage only, you can see how this is obtaining. Now, if you sell land which is more than 50 acres, you have to pay capital gains tax. And the reason why, I guess, is to increase the revenue that goes to the exchequer. But an interesting one that I found, which maybe afflicts all of us as Kenyans, is this thing of fighting over succession. And perhaps we all need to start writing our wills. But the thing is, if you do fight over some of these issues, then you don't get to transfer your land within those 2 years. You have to pay capital gains tax, which I thought was a good one. But those proposals are effective next year. Then in terms of tax losses, which is perhaps where we start seeing some impact for you as a dairy sector. When you talk about tax losses carry forward, you may be aware that the tax losses were up to 5 years. You could only carry forward your tax losses up to 5 years. But now there was a proposal in this year's budget that your tax losses can actually be carried forward to 10 years. Now that's a brilliant proposal, and I for one actually support it, because the pain of going through the extension of these tax losses it's a serious headache. But now, when you look at the proposed amendments, and this is something that we've actually engaged Treasury on, that amendment, despite it being so good and so well-intentioned, is actually not captured in the law. And in fact, the amendment talks about amending section 15.5, yet section 15.4 is the one which provides for this tax carry forward losses. So I'm really waiting for this Finance Act, once it's promulgated by Parliament, to see whether some of these things have been affected, so that we actually give intent to what was proposed, those tax carry-forward losses. That's a good one. Now, but the question then still lingers: what happens to the tax losses that arose in 2014, 2015, or expired in 2014, 2015? Because this amendment comes into force on 1st January 2016. There's a lacuna there, there's a gap there, and we need some guidance in terms of what do we do about those tax losses that have expired to date. Now, another one which might affect you as a dairy sector perhaps is that previously we used to have investment deduction allowances. In other words, if you had an investment, and we've just heard about value addition and all these kind of things, if you have an investment which costs you about 200 million shillings, then you are allowed to take 150%. It was actually a very good way of incentivizing people to invest, particularly outside Nairobi, Mombasa, and Kisumu. But Kenya Revenue Authority, they will tell you that the R stands for revenue, not for refund. So what they have decided is that they are going to streamline all those allowances so that now your tax allowance will only be 100% of exactly what you spend. And for a long time, this has been in the cards, but we've now seen it coming through in this year's finance bill. Now, this is where I guess you and I, or perhaps not you and I, but certainly most of you, will come in. And this is the residential income. Now, you see, I know most of you are farmers here, and perhaps you want to augment your income. So you've got rental income. And for the longest time, people believed that there was no tax on rental income. But actually, since 1974, when we had the East Africa Income Tax Act, rent has always been subject to tax. The only thing is people don't pay it. Now, what happened with revenue authorities is that they set up a specialized team, a very, very aggressive gentleman called Utegi, and they said, look, we want you to go after the defaulters. And this is not really picked up as expected. But what's happening is that in the Finance Bill 2015, there was a proposal, and actually it's actually contained in the Finance Bill. There is a proposal that we are going to change the way rental income is taxed in this country. And therefore, if you're earning less than 10 million shillings in rental income a year, then you're only going to pay 12% income tax. That's a brilliant thing, because you and I will generally pay tax at 30%, so 12% is certainly a good deal. Now, what I think is going to happen is that we're all going to start paying tax at 12%, which is very good. And then, next year, or the year after, that rate goes up to 30%. But guess what? KRM will already have your data, so you'll be paying tax now. Which I thought that was a brilliant one. And now, to even encourage you to do that, what they have said is that we're going to give you a waiver. So you come forward, declare what you've not declared in the past, we're going to give you an amnesty for that, which is a brilliant thing, I think. The last time we had an amnesty in 2004, that we saw the tax rates, or tax compliance rates coming up. But you might have seen also in the, I think it was Tuesday's Business Daily, where KRA said that they are linking people's bank accounts to their tax returns. And this is a serious initiative on the part of the government, and it actually was indicated in the Cabinet Secretary's speech this year, where he said that they are undertaking reforms, administrative reforms to deepen tax compliance. And what the statistics we have is that roughly about 48% of us pay taxes in this country, and most of those are people who are employed in the formal sector, paying pay as you earn. And what the government is focusing on now is for those people in the informal sector. Helen has just told us about the sectors that drive this economy in terms of the poor, the people at the bottom of the pyramid. And this is where the government is also focusing on. So my advice to you is, if you've got rental income, certainly do pay before they catch up with you, because you certainly cannot be living in 3 houses at the same time. Now, capital gains tax has been on the cards for a very long time. It's back, but the implementation has been, to say the least, problematic. And that's because we didn't have what we call indexing. The international best practices, when you introduce capital gains tax, have a base year for determining what your costs are. For example, one of my clients sold about 2,000 acres of land, which they had bought in 1968. And the biggest question we had was, this land cost 300,000 shillings in 1968. Now it's being sold for 2.5 billion or thereabouts. So what is the capital gain there? And it's significant. So that has really presented a problem. And what the government is saying is, look, particularly for shares, we want this to be a lot easier. And what we're going to do is that instead of asking you to tell us how many shares you bought and sold and what the profit is, you pay us 0.3% transaction tax, 0.3% of your transactional value, which is a brilliant way of ensuring compliance. But my question as a tax advisor is, fine, I'm paying capital gains tax. Now what happens if I don't make a gain? You're still going to tax me on the 0.3% transaction value. And those are some of the issues that we're asking to be ironed out even as we move towards implementing this law. Now one maybe which might affect you as well is this one for rebates. And you know what the minister said, what the cabinet secretary said is, look, if you employ graduates, about 6 to 12 graduates, 10 graduates for 6 to 12 months, then we're going to give you a rebate. Now we don't know what kind of rebates these are. We are waiting for the guidelines to be issued. At least I've not seen the guidelines. But I think that's something that will encourage most of the young people to go into farming, which has been shunned. Then an interesting one here, which was, you might know that companies do get a rebate in terms of their corporation tax, especially where you list. Like for example, you recall when Kenya Re listed, the reason why they actually listed 40% on the stock market is so that they can get advantage of the reduced tax rate of 20% as opposed to the current 30%. So what has been proposed is if you list through introduction at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, then you do get a 25% tax rate. We don't know how long, but you know that's the proposal. Then I've always wondered, because when you participate in games of chance, when you do win, like for example, I think there's a time people are winning cows. If you win a cow, and let's say that cow is worth 200,000 shillings, then you're required to pay withholding tax on that gain, on that windfall. I don't know, 20% of the cow, or if you convert the value, I'm not really sure how that was working, but anyway, there was that. Now what the minister or the cabinet secretary has said is, look, let's have a withholding tax on that and forget about the person who was born paying the withholding tax on that, which is a good one. So those are the income tax proposals in a nutshell. Not very many, but certainly something to look forward to. For VAT proposals, now this is where I think some of you might be affected, because the biggest proposal that came through in the budget was we are going to limit the period within which you can claim VAT refunds to 12 months. Previously it was open, so if you had VAT refunds, say from November 2014 or 2013, you could actually file it any day you wanted. And I guess for the government that was good, because you're not chasing them for the VAT refunds. But now what the law says is you've got to file it within 12 months, and you've got to claim it within 12 months. Now, but the question here is, if you look at the law, and I'm a lawyer by training, so therefore my training is to read the law as it's written and ask myself, how will this be implemented? If you look at the law, it's not very clear when the 12 months starts running. Does it start running for my VAT refund claims which have not yet been filed, or does it start running from the effective date, which is 12th of June 2015? We had a lot of argument in where I work at KPMG, and we finally decided that it's 12th of June 2015. That's at least our position. But we're waiting to see what the commissioner says. Now, another one which might also affect you is that the commissioner, in a bid to enhance compliance, the commissioner is saying some people are charging VAT and they're not accounting for that VAT, and therefore I'm going to appoint withholding VAT agents to ensure that people account for the VAT. And how this is going to work is, if you give me an invoice for 1,000 shillings with VAT of 160, I will pay you the VAT of 100 shillings plus your invoice value of 1,000, but then 60 I'll pay to KRA. So what happens is that if you don't account for that money to KRA, then they will at least know that Robert has withheld 60, and therefore we need to go for this particular person to ensure that they account for the 60, for the 100 that they have been paid by Robert. It's a very ingenious way of ensuring that people account for their taxes, and I agree with that one, because it's been abused in the past. So we've known that withholding VAT has largely been for government departments, but now the commissioner is exercising her power under the law to say even private sector individuals or players, I will appoint them to be VAT withholding agents, which is a good thing. Now then the next one is, and this is perhaps one of my clients is involved in aerial spraying of wheat and stuff like that, and they were very happy that some of the aeroplane parts have been exempt. Previously, they were standard rated at 16% VAT. But for you, because there's been also a drive about clean energy, everybody's talking about clean energy, and one of the forms that is being exploited or is being touted for exploitation is biogas. And I suppose this is one of the reasons why the government moved to say, for biogas digesters, we will no longer be charging 16% VAT, we'll make it exempt, which is a good thing. I guess from where I stand, I say, instead of paying 16% VAT, I'm happy not to pay VAT for this product to be exempt. But from a technical perspective, you're better off getting these things zero-rated rather than being exempt. Now, I know one of the problems about zero rating in this country is that in the past it has been abused. You know, we started in 1989 with the VAT Act, which was repealed the other day, and then we grew from a list of about 30 or so zero-rated items to 496 zero-rated items. So the question has always been, when do we stop? So I guess that's the reason why instead of being zero-rated, they are being exempted. But I guess that's still a step in the right direction. Some medicaments which are also were previously exempt are now subject to VAT. And a critical one, which I think a lot of people have failed to see, is that if you look at the VAT Act 2013, it's got certain transitional items. For example, fuel. You don't pay VAT on fuel right now, but come December 2016, you'll definitely need to pay VAT. Now, then, so we talked about laptops, that's something that's going on as a government project. Now, customs, I think customs is, there's something called the sensitive list, which I found very interesting because, for example, Kenya has added cheese to the sensitive list, and I take the point that Mr. Ngoria here said that cheese will do something to you after it's good for you when you're drinking. But yeah, so to import cheese into this country, you have to pay 65% customs duty, which is a good thing because I guess it then encourages you to go into cheese production. And then wait for animal products. I know that's a sensitive issue, but the customs duty has been reduced, at least has been retained at a rate of 10% instead of the normal 35%. That's a good one. Road maintenance levy, you've all seen that price of fuel has gone up today, so that's 3 shillings, and I guess that means that it's more expensive for you to fuel your tractors and water vehicles. There was a mention in the budget speech about aluminium milk cans going up in terms of duty from 10 to 25%, but we can't find that in the law. So I guess for me, as I wind up, the question then that I have for you is, what next? Should we be talking about VAT zero rating of essential products like milk? We've seen that milk is certainly something that is used by a lot of people. Should we be talking about zero rating of farm feeds, for example, instead of the current 16% VAT, biogas digesters instead of exempting them? For a lot of you, I'm not sure whether we are exploiting the provisions in the Income Tax Act that allow you to take deductions of research and development expenditure. Maybe it's time for you to start taking into account some of those things, new products, new processes. Are you incurring costs for that, and therefore, can you take a tax deduction on that? And then perhaps again, collectively, what's the tax status of ISADA, and what can you do about optimizing that? And now that I know that the Kenyan market is so huge, we've not yet exploited it, we perhaps need to put on hold this thing of the tripartite free trade area, but certainly it presents a huge market and a huge potential for you to be exporting and perhaps getting VAT refunds. Thank you very much.
Adan Mohammed, our Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, Chairman Dr. Rui Langat of ESADA, Director of Livestock Production, Julius Tarus, Mr. Larsen, who is sending very important sector in our Navy, the CEO, young man Karia, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Waziri, indeed, it's a very important function which we've come to attend today, and I'm happy that you responded positively to the invite from ESADA. This is an organization which has been very, very active
promoting the dairy sector. And therefore, when we have organizations, the private sector, who come together to discuss nothing but how to improve the dairy sector in this country. And that is why, Waziri, when we asked you to join us, I'm happy that you accepted. And indeed, you gave the right time when we were just about to start. And so, I want to say that one of the issues in the dairy sector has been the challenge on production. I know we have about 4 million dairy cattle in this country, which gives us a production of about 5 million liters in a year. That is what Madam Ellen Shaw challenged us in our presentation. So when you look at the number of dairy cattle and the output, you will find that we are doing badly. In fact, if we compare ourselves to other countries like South Africa, which is in Africa, we find that with about a quarter of the dairy cattle in that country, they are able even to produce more milk than what we produce in Kenya. So that remains our challenge. How do we improve the production so that every dairy cattle is able to produce 20 liters, 20 kilos per day and more? The other obvious challenge, of course, we also have in the sector has been put forward by the practitioners, has been the cost of feeds and the quality of the feeds we use in our dairy cattle. And so, as people who are in the industry, we need to look at ourselves, we need to look at what we do, so that we find ways of improving the quality of the feeds we supply to our farmers. This is one way of ensuring that we give good quality feeds, so that the balanced diet as expected of our animals will be attained. Waziri today had gone to one of the cooperative societies in Kiambu, and the biggest issue they have always raised, even when they were raising today, is the fact that, one, the cost of feed is very high, and even then, it is also the quality of the feeds. One of the officials was saying, in fact, we took a sample to our agencies in the government, and they were not sure of the quality of the content. And so we hope the animal feeds policy we are developing will address some of those challenges we've had. Currently in the ministry we are developing animal feed policy, so that we look at what we will expect from the people who are participating, who are producing animal feed in the country. And so we hope within the next 6 months the policy will be out, and we believe that it will regulate the sector positively, so that if you are selling animal feed and you say carbohydrates is this percentage, proteins is this much, vitamins is this much, minerals is this much, it should reflect like that. And we will also put, in case you are unable to do it, then the law will have to take its course. So this is one of the areas that we are looking at it as a ministry. And Waziri, we are about, that policy is almost, we're almost 70%. Within the next 6 months, then we will be able to, we will be able to have it ready, so that it gives us direction, good direction when it comes to feeds, because it's a very important area. Lastly, I want to thank Dr. Langata and his group and the people who are participating in this sector. We hope the conference which we are looking forward to will make us to come together, so that we exchange good technologies, so that we improve the sector. And so, once again, I'm happy to be part of this group, and we look forward to your participation, so that we improve the sector as we move forward. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's now my humble duty and responsibility to welcome our chief guest, our acting Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, Adan Mohammed, to come and make his remarks.
Thank you very much, Professor. And ladies and gentlemen, first of all, apologies for coming late. I was literally dragged off from my desk to be here. So I'm happy to have arrived before dinner is served. And I really also don't want to be standing in the way of dinner tonight. So I will be very brief. You know, I have spent about 2.5 years at the moment now in government and have learned a lot of things. And my latest set of learnings is to find out how many liters of milk a cow produces. And the latest statistics that I'm told is we have a lot more cows than South Africa, but we produce probably a fraction of what they do. And that is just a demonstration of many things that we undergo in our country, where productivity still remains a major issue. Today, I was spending a lot of my time with the media discussing the famous sugar imports from Uganda. As you can imagine, it's a very hot topic. And just before I left the office, I got an SMS from an anonymous person. And it says, don't comment on something you don't understand. So I said, should I just take this line down or should I just confront? And I called the person, he happened to be Robert Alai. So we had a very good and interesting conversation, but really it underscores the kind of challenges that we have in our sugar sector, where most of our factories are operating at a fraction of their capacity, and those that are at full capacity are also not as efficient as they ought to be. And so, if you look across our agricultural sector, there are a significant number of gaps, but also huge opportunities. And coming back to the livestock, and in particular the dairy sector, it's one that really is an area where we have, as a country, some significant competitive advantage compared to many African countries. And that is something that, you know, you look around and you say, well, we are trying to compete with other countries in some sectors, yet we can't compete effectively. So if you look at heavy industries, for example, where the significant cost component is normally electricity and power, given the cost of our electricity, we can't compete effectively. But if you look at sectors like dairy, livestock for beef, and others, with the right climate, with the right number of animals, but we just need to tweak a few historical things that we have always got it wrong and have accepted as the norm, and therefore decided we should let it go as always has been. And the PS mentioned some of the challenges that we've had around the quality of our feeds, the cost of our feeds, the various taxes that are levied on many of those things. And one of the things that we have committed as a ministry, with the support, of course, of the PS who has been running this much longer than I've been, is to really take a step back and say, what do we want to do to take a much bigger and better share of what rightly belongs to us? And
Why should countries like Nigeria be importing milk and dairy products from other places? And if you look at Africa, I think we stand a really, really good chance and have significant opportunity. And we can learn from some of our African countries, like South Africa and others who have done a great job in this. And so I really want to say that the government's commitment in this sector is strong and will continue in partnership with the players within the sector, find ways of actually making this sector to be much more productive and beneficial both to the country but also to the private sector players who have invested for a very long time. I would like to say that whether it's new technologies in terms of breeding or pushing our colleagues who are responsible for taxes and others to reduce the cost through tax incentives, we will do whatever is required to make sure that we are all pulling in the same direction and take advantage of the natural benefits that we already enjoy. And so I would like to save my speech for the main event in September. Therefore, don't want to say anything more. Just want to say how pleased I am to be amongst these wonderful people. And shortly after I was asked to be the acting minister responsible for this sector, I committed to buy 2 dairy cattle. I haven't found them yet. I have been told these wonderful ones. Where are they? Where's the picture? It's gone. Yeah. They eat 3 times more than the others. So I'm like, okay, so it's going to cost me more. I was told no, it's going to produce more as well. But on a serious note, that is a commitment, and I'm looking for some very answers. So I'll talk to the chairman shortly after this. So ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your dinner, and it's now my pleasure to open this forum, which is the preparation for a much bigger event in September. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now we need more people on the dance floor, okay? Everybody can have fun. We're here for only one person dancing, alright?